Okay, so we are actually going to be getting through 3-1. So we should have got most of these done. I'm just gonna kind of like catch up and go through them quickly, right? This is actually adding integers. Next, we're gonna be subtracting integers, then we're gonna be multiplying integers, and then we're gonna be dividing integers. Then we'll be taking a quiz. This is page 137. This is the practice that you did yesterday and the day before. Yep, so we're going to fly through. So starting on page 137, number 1, our signs are the same. So we're adding their absolute values. What's 3 plus 8? You can say it out loud.
11.
11, is it positive or negative?
Negative, so negative 11.
How about number 2? Our signs are the same, so we're adding their absolute values. What's 11 plus 13?
24.
And is it positive or negative?
Negative.
Number 3, our signs are different, so we're actually subtracting our absolute values. So we should have 35 minus 9, which is what?
26. 26.
Oh dear, careful. So we have to borrow. This is 6, this is 2. And is it positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative. Why is it negative?
Because the negative number is bigger than the
Yes,
positive
that
number.
one was bigger. Fantastic. The absolute value of it. Excellent. I love it. All right. Different again. So again, we're finding the difference. What's 28 minus 14?
Oh.
14. So is it positive or
yeah.
negative? Negative 14 is my answer. Uh-oh. What do we do here? All right, let's start here. What's negative 22 and negative 10?
Negative 30.
So negative 32 plus 15. Our signs are different, so we have to find the difference. What'd you get?
17.
17,
Negative
positive or
17.
negative? Negative. Very good. 137. All right. Now, did you rewrite this so you had your positive things together, or did you just go for it?
Just go for it.
Okay.
Did we have to show our work?
Yes.
Well, there's a little bit of work involved, but it's okay.
8.
18 plus 5 would be 23, minus 12 is
11.
11, positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, because these combined were positive 23, so that was more than this. Sorry, I should have. That was our only positive answer. Good observation. All right, number 7. He owes his father $15, so that means he's in the hole 15. He borrows another 25 from him. What does he owe now?
40. Negative 40.
$40, and we would show it negative.
Then you have to write the dollar sign in.
All right, a football team lost 14 yards on their first play. If they lost yards, that's negative 14,
21.
right? So they are asking what integer represents the total change, so they're losing another 7. So good, you should be finding the sum, right, Michael?
Negative 21.
Negative 21.
Juan's beginning account balance was $20. His ending balance is 0. What integer represents the change in his account?
20 minus 0, or 20 minus 0.
Good. So his change was negative 20, right? That took him to 0. Lucy's dog lost 6 pounds. How much weight does her dog need to gain in order to have a net change of 0?
6 pounds.
6 pounds.
Good.
I'm quite curious. How do you get 0 pounds?
A net change.
So it's just like the problems we were doing before, like negative 60 would take 60.
What do we,
and then
right.
60.
And what did we call that? Do you guys remember?
I don't remember that.
They called it a. What do they call it? Additive inverse. There it is. What do we need to make for their sum to be zero? That's the additive inverse. What would we add for the sum to be zero? All right, so that's what those questions are dealing with, is the additive inverses. All right. The table shows Jules' scores for the first 9 holes and the second 9 holes of her game of golf. What integer represents her score for the entire game? So 3 over would be 3, plus 4 under par would be -4. So if our signs are different,
-1.
we would say 4 minus 1. No, 4 minus 3, just kidding, is 1.
-1.
And my bigger number is negative. Fabulous job. At 4 a.m., the outside temperature was -28 degrees. By 4 p.m. that same day, it rose 38. So -28 plus the 38. What integer represents the temperature now?
It's 10.
10 degrees, or just 10. So remember, when your signs are different, we're gonna find the difference. So we would take big minus little,
Well, that's pretty easy because it's 30.
and this is the bigger one. Okay, you could think of it as a number line if you need to. You can think about your pluses and minuses if you need to. In 20 seconds, a roller coaster goes up a 100-meter hill. So it's going up 100 meters, then down 72 meters, and then back up 48 meters. How much higher or lower from the start of the ride is the coaster after the 20 seconds?
76.
So what's 100 plus a -72? Elijah, are you with us?
28 negative. I just said 20.
Just 28, right? Because my bigger number is positive. Now 28 plus 48 is
76.
76. So 76 what? Meters
Yeah.
from the start? Joe opened a bank account with $80. So that's positive, is right? He then withdrew, that means to take out
Yes.
Might usually.
35.
Yeah.
And then deposited 115. What's his account balance now?
160.
So you could say 80 plus this is 195. So 195 minus 35 is 160. Well done. Questions on page 137.
Nope.
Just 1 sec.
The table shows the transactions for 1 week for Tasha and Jamal. Who has the greater account balance at the end of the week and how much greater? So if we start with Tasha, her initial deposit was $250 minus 20,
Plus 65.
Plus-
Minus 46.
so plus a -20, plus 65, plus a -46.
Yeah.
And Jamal was
Plus 200.
200
Then minus 60.
plus a -60
And
plus
plus
a
135.
100.
How do you write
And then
so
minus
fast?
27.
Well, this should already be written for you, because you should have already done this page.
I don't know.
So, so this is 230, 295, 295 minus 46, what do you get?
249.
249, did anybody else get that? Awesome, thank you. And here you have 140, 275, 275 minus 27, 248, is that what you got?
Yep.
So it was close.
But
But-
Tasha won.
Who had the greater account?
Tasha by $1.
Man, they really kept that close. Okay. A hot air balloon rises 340 feet into the air, then it descends 130 feet, then it goes up 80, and then down another 45.
240.
Hopefully you are able to show this, right? How many feet will the balloon need to travel to return to the ground?
245 feet.
So it's gotta go down 245 feet. So 340 plus this. So 210, 290. 290 minus 45 should be 245. And which way does it need to go to travel to the ground? Down. Okay, so that's how I represent it, because that's how it has to travel down 245. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Even though our answer was positive, because it needs to travel in a negative direction.
Yes.
Negative. All right, what's the value, what value of X would result in the numerical value of 0 for each expression?
1.
So here, you would need a positive one?
Or no?
No. If this were a positive one, this would be 12 minus 10. We want it to be actually a negative one.
What?
Because negative 10 plus 11 is 1. 1 plus a negative 1 gives it 0.
Yeah.
So here, what does this X need to be?
-1.
No. Or B, no. We want the same number of positives as negatives. So if we have negative 10, we need 3 more positives, right? So do you see 7 plus 3 is 10, minus 10 is 0. We want the value of 0 for each expression. What does X have to be here?
0.
0. Because we already have the same number of positives as we do negatives. They wanted us to balance out our positive and negatives. That's how we get a value of 0 for the expression, is if we have the same number of positives as we have negatives. Right, Cadence? Find a counterexample. Patrick stated that the sum of a positive integer and a negative integer is always negative. Find a counterexample that illustrates why this statement is not true. So when would the sum of a positive integer and a negative integer be positive?
No idea. We'll get this one.
When the positive integer is what? Bigger. So if I had 5 plus a negative 3, would it be positive?
Correct.
So there's your counterexample. We wanted to find an example where it was positive to show why that statement was not true. All right, explain how you know that the sum of 2, 3, and negative 2 is positive without computing. How would I know that it was positive? Because why, David?
The bigger number is positive, and the negative number is.
Because there are more positive.
That's not.
That's okay. So there's more positive, or you know right away 2 minus 2 is 0, so you would be left with, or the 2's cancel each other out.
I'm just gonna write the variable.
Yep, either way. Either way you want to think about it. Write and solve a real world problem where you add 3 integers and the sum is negative. So hopefully you could think through that. Make sure you're doing number 20. Gonna have multiple different answers. Okay, we're gonna move on to subtracting integers, which begins on page 139. I can use different methods, including algebra tiles, number lines, or the additive inverse to subtract integers. All right, so same thing, we can model subtraction. It's going to look just a little bit different. You ready? Here's the number line. The horizontal number line models the equation 4 minus 9 equals -5. So if we start at 0 and move to the right 4 units to get to 4, Then we move left 9 units back here. We end up where?
Nowhere.
And W.
We end up at -5. So the difference is -5. The vertical number line models the equation 4 minus 9 equals -5. So if we start at 0, we move up 4 units and then down 9, we'd also get to -5. All right, commutative property. So we use the commutative property for addition, right? 7 plus 2 is equal to 2 plus 7. My first grader calls it turnaround facts. I don't know. Guess I know that's the commutative property, and she's like, commute it what? Right? So does 7 minus 2 equal 2 minus 7? Does it?
Most likely.
Yeah.
No,
No.
it doesn't. What is 7 minus 2? And what is 2 minus 7? No, it's not. My bigger number is what? My bigger number is negative. So if I started at the 2 and went back 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, what's my answer? -5. So does it? No, it does not equal each other. We just showed it with this. All right. I know things are probably still a little bit unclear on subtracting integers. We've got a long ways to go. It's okay. 139, 140. So the number lines illustrate the rules for subtracting two integers. To subtract an integer, add the additive inverse of the integer. So essentially, subtracting the number is the same as adding the opposite of it. So 4 minus 9 is the same as 4 plus a -9, right? Right. Yeah, okay. So you don't have to know. But you can focus. Example 1. This is gonna get a little tricky. We start at 0. We have 5 minus a -9. I don't know why they like the number line with this. I don't. All right, so start at 0. Move right, move right 5 units starting from 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're obviously at 5 now, right? Then move right 7 units to show subtracting a -7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I'm at +12. So it's the same as adding the additive inverse. So 5 minus a -7 is the same as adding the additive inverse. What's the additive inverse of -7? Yes, it is 7. So the opposite of 7, I'm sorry, the opposite of 7 is -7, or the opposite of -7 is 7. That's a lot. That whole additive inverse makes it a little complicated, but subtraction is the same as adding the opposite. So additive inverse is a big word for opposite. So the opposite of -7 is +7. So we do this thing called keep, switch, switch. Did you see it at all last year? No, not at all. Okay, that's all right. So to subtract a -7, we add the inverse of -7. So that's why we said 5 plus 7. What's 5 plus 7? No. What's 5 plus 7? 12. So 5 minus a -7 equals 12. So you will see, when we subtract a negative, you'll see us keep switch, which means we're keeping the first. We're switching this sign and we're switching this sign. So do you see how that becomes 5 plus 7? All right, just another way to look at it. So now, if I was keep switching, we would say 11. I'm adding the opposite. Well, what's the opposite of negative 15?
$15 million.
So I would change my sign to positive. I would keep my first, switch and switch. So that's a little bit tricky. We have to notice when we have those two negatives next to each other and we have to switch them. Okay? Are we okay on 140?
Yes, Armando.
Okay, 141. Same thing here, but it's gonna get a little bit trickier. So to subtract a negative 17, we have to add its inverse. Or add its additive inverse, or add its opposite. So we really have negative 24 plus 17. Well, what do we know about when our signs are different?
You find the difference.
We find the difference. So we take big minus little. Yeah, that's right. Big minus little, so I have to borrow. 14 minus 7 is 7. So that's where they got the 7. Why did they say negative 7?
Because the negative is bigger.
Because we had more negatives. Excellent. All right, so now you can think about it in a couple different ways. We're going to keep, and then we're going to switch and switch. So try that. Make sure you do that check. Hey. Okay, thanks.
Can I leave?
Your dad's speaking. All right, so when we add the opposite, we end up having different signs, right? So what do we do when our signs are different? We find the difference, so we minus, yep, so 39 minus what? Big minus little, 9 minus 4, 3 minus 2. Yes, it is negative. All right, so far so good. Does it make any sense?
Yeah.
We're just kind of adding one more layer, right? Adding those layers on. All right. Now we're subtracting expressions. So let me peek ahead to our practice here. Let's see where we go today. I feel like this is probably a good spot to start. To stop, rather. So if you will turn to page 147, remember this is page 147, you should be able to do numbers 1 through 9. Remember, subtraction is the same as adding the opposite. In other words, you might keep the first, switch to addition, and then switch. Keep switch, switch the second sign. It's what we just did. So you're gonna keep switch. So you keep the first, you switch to addition, and then you switch the second sign, or keep, change, opposite. Okay, so look here, you're keeping the first, and then you switch. Right? So what's 9 plus 2? 11. That's not so bad.
$1,100 million.
If you start at negative 20 and you're getting more negative, do you think your answer is going to be what? Think of these as your signs being the same. Think of this as -20 plus a -10. Careful, your signs are the same. It's not negative. Your signs are the same, so you're finding the sum, right? So -30. It's okay, it takes a second to really see. These are very straightforward, but sometimes when it looks more like this one, we want to think of it as -33 plus a -30. So two negatives make it more negative. If you start negative and you subtract more, you are thinking you're going more negative, okay? So 1 through 9 today.